Let's make a pen. The kit parts catalog numbers are circled there, and I'm going to take this Kieranite blank now from its packaging. Make sure you read the front and the back. Everything you need to know is there on those instructions. Picking the parts out, I make sure they work, nothing's scratched, everything looks good. Once I've decided that I've got a good kit in my hands, the next thing I'll do is mark the length of the blank so that it fits the tube. Tube is placed leaving 1/8 of an inch on each end. A pencil marks the overall length. This will give me about 1/4 inch extra to allow for squaring on the sander. I set the blank, cut it with the table saw, then I'll take it to the drill press. I set a stop on the drill press so that the tip of the bit just pierces through the blank right at the point where the downward motion stops. Then lock the blank into place in a custom pen press that I made. Put in my vacuum so that it collects the particles as they're cut, and begin to drill through. Make sure your drill bits are nice and sharp. Sharp tools are always better to use than dull tools. Once the blank is drilled out, the next step is to glue the brass tube into place. I make sure that it slides through just fine, then using a medium-bodied cyanoacrylate glue, I place glue in the end of the pen that is opposite from the end that I will start to press the tube in with my brass tube insertion tool. Then put CA glue on the tube and then rotating to move the glue around completely so that all surfaces are covered. Extract the tool, make sure that that brass tube is within the body. Doesn't stick out too far. So I begin to sand down the ends of the plastic so that they are flush with the brass tube. Once the ends are flush, I want to clean out any debris. This is the particular bushing kit for this pen. I'll place the bushings inside, and then I'll take this blank and put it on the pen mandrel on the lathe. This is a jet 12-inch variable speed reversing lathe. It's nice to have a lathe that you can cut more than just pens on. It works great for pens, it works great for bowls. The live center is placed and then secured, tightened down. Tool rest is checked before we turn the lathe on, making sure the corners of the blank don't touch. And then I cut at about 1400 RPMs using a roughing gouge to remove the corners from the blank and make it round. Once I've got the square round, I use a square tip carbide tool. The carbide tool is nice because I can rotate when it becomes dull. I can rotate that square and have a fresh new cutting surface. Eventually the entire thing will become dull. Here's a tip for you. Remove that. Instead of buying a brand new one, simply get yourself a diamond card. A diamond grit card that you can sharpen the tool on. This diamond sharpening card allows me to cut the surface of that tool down, which restores the edge and makes it sharp again. So we'll just put this back in, put the screw in, tighten it down, and I'm ready to continue cutting. You want to smooth your blanks so that the shoulders, that's the end of the tube, of the blank, those shoulders are completely flush with the bushings. When you start to get close, when I get close, I start to feel with my finger, see what kind of ridges are still there. You can see they're still substantial, so I'll keep removing material. Take your time when you do this. You don't want to get in a hurry. This should be a relaxing hobby or a money-making endeavor. And we just want to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. You really can't feel any transition between the bushing and the surface of the blank. The next step will be to polish. Sand and polish. So first we're going to sand it using multiple grits and water. I start with the rougher textures and move down to the finest. This is about a 600 grit. Then I go sequentially through these, creating a slurry, a paste of water and minute plastic particles that develop. When I take it all the way down to 12,000, it should just pretty much glow. So once this is done, the last thing will be to use the one-step plastic finishing paste. I will apply that paste to a clean cloth, put a little bit of it on the surface of the blank, rotate it, smear it around, and then turn my RPMs to about 2,500. This lathe will actually go to 3,000 RPMs, and then polish the blank. I only use about 2 different coats, 2 different applications. That gives a nice glow finish to this particular project. It should reflect the light nicely. And when it's done, it's done. You'll know when it's done. When you look at it, you'll see it just looks perfectly perfect. So remove everything from the pen mandrel, pull the bushings out. Now we're going to take this and mark where I want the clip to be. So I put a tiny little dot, and then I line the clip up with the dot. So my alignment is good. I centered that between the 2 red stripes on this particular pen. And now I'll press the top of the pen into the body. Once that's pressed into place, looks good. There aren't any gaps. I'll take the tip of the pen, put it into the receiver of the press, and then just repeat the process of making sure everything is in alignment, perfectly straight. And then I'll just kind of support it with my hand as I begin to press this into place, and watch that gap close, and you can see and feel when it's completely home. And there it is, nice and snug. Inspect the pen for any gappage. You shouldn't see any. If you sanded your ends nice and square, then you'll have a nice finish. This is a Parker style refill. It gets dropped down into the main body of the tube with the spring. Put the tip back in place, and we have a finished pen. Ready to go, whether it's for sale or a gift or just for your own collection. They're fun to make. They're beautiful, and people really like them when they receive them. Be sure you check below for links to tools and supplies, and start making your own pens today.